Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reviving the Global Heart on August 2nd, the year 2022. Here in Michigan, it's primary election day. So I will be going to City Hall late this afternoon and doing some voting. I am freshly back from a wilderness vacation in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Gigantic piece of land up there. The size of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island combined, but only 500,000 people live up there. A lot of dirt roads, a lot of beautiful views, water, some mountains. They're not tall mountains like the Rockies, but they feel mountainous for the center of the country. So I am refreshed and ready to revive the global heart. I'd like to start today with a short reading from one of my favorite authors who has influenced me so much. Her name is Dillard. Annie has taught me a lot about life. And she actually starts this section with a quote from Thomas Merton. There is always a temptation to diddle around in the contemplative life, making itsy-bitsy statues. She goes on to say, there is always an enormous temptation in all of life to diddle around, making itsy-bitsy friends and meals and journeys for itsy-bitsy years on end. It is so self-conscious, so apparently moral, simply to step aside from the gaps where the creeks and winds pour down, saying, I never merited this grace, quite rightly. And then to sulk along the rest of your days on the edge of rage. I won't have it. The world is wider than that in all directions, more dangerous and bitter, more extravagant and bright. We are making hay when we should be making whoopee. We are raising tomatoes when we should be raising Cain or Lazarus. Thank you, Annie. And I'll tell you why that quote came to mind. It's the last line. We are making hay when we should be making whoopee. We are raising tomatoes when we should be raising Cain or Lazarus. As much as I love Annie Dillard, I do not like shoulds. Most of the shoulds come from myself and how I should be spending my time, what I should be doing, what others should be doing, what our government should be doing, what we should be doing for the planet. And it strikes me on this topic of reviving the global heart that there are blocks, there are obstacles, there are things that get in the way of reviving the global heart. And one of them is the anxiety, the pressure that comes from there's so much to do. And I just wondered, opening up to discussion, to feel what it's like to be in your body and to feel pressure. How do you respond to pressure? When it feels like there are shoulds that are so loud and powerful, how does your body respond to pressure? I'm opening it up to anyone to share if you feel so called.
I'll share. I feel in my body, I tend to feel tightness and then move into like overwhelm and sometimes shut down. I've noticed. Yeah.
Tightness, shutting down.
I can relate to that, anxiety and probably negative thoughts that don't contribute to anything moving forward.
Thank you, Ophelia.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like resistance, like, don't tell me I should, I want to, I'm going to, whatever. But yeah, in addition to some of that pressure that others have described.
I love a little rebellious streak in Cheryl. I love what you wrote in the chat too. I like the idea of not living under should, but living toward what calls us forward, listening and dancing to that call. Thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else feeling pressure?
Yes, it narrows my view of the world. I get focused on small things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's actually a neuroscientific backing to that. When we're in a state of fear and anxiety, the prefrontal cortex, if it's not life or death, we lose the alignment between our essentially three brains. And we stick to what is known, what we know, and very restricted. Now, that's different than being triggered in a state of fear when we're just reactive and don't have access. But it's hard to be creative, or I would say it's nearly impossible to be creative with fear and anxiety.
Depends on how great the pressure, but sometimes I can feel the pressure cooker inside me wanting to explode.
Mm-hmm. What would happen if it exploded?
And unfortunately, that's not pretty.
Didn't answer.
I heard that, Cynthia.
The immediate release tends to result in more damage and more need of repair. A lot of mending has to happen afterwards, has been my experience, and sometimes the repair has not been possible.
So there's more of a risk of damaging.
Yeah, but it takes its own a toll in the other direction too.
Which is one reason why we do this practice on reviving the global heart and the core exercise, which is a different version of the same practice, to remind ourselves what it's like to be in a connected, non-reactive state. Well, I've been in a dialogue with a group of people for actually almost 3 years now about productivity and our obsession with hard work. And for at least in many Western cultures, this idea that we have to work hard. I remember there was this advice columnist that I loved 20 years ago. His name was, he's still alive actually. He's just holding writing retreats. His name is Carrie Tennis. And I subscribed to his column, and I ordered a t-shirt that had a caricature on the front, and on the back, it had Carrie Tennis's signature, and it said, "Cease your virtuous striving." Cease your virtuous striving. And I kind of carry that into this conversation about productivity, because when we feel pressure, when we feel like we should, when we strive, I question how much we actually get done. And perhaps one of the ways that we are not getting to reviving the global heart is we're working too hard. What if that's a possibility? Is there anyone that has a reaction to that, that feels like we've got to work harder?
Lately, I'm playing harder.
And it works much better for me and the people around me.
Love that.
Thank you, Todd. The American society particularly is very strong on this pressure of performance, workaholics, and this virtuous striving. And the values that instilled on us are guided towards that. But since we have people from Europe here, I think things are different there. They might be going towards that direction, but I think things are different there. They enjoy life and they have a set of values they go for that are really precious. I wonder if they want to share with us those concepts.
Hank, Mika, you have an invitation.
Yes, I hear, but it's not for everyone. There is an old streak in Europeans who are Calvinistic that your worth is what you're doing. So you have to earn your to be loved and to be appreciated. And that's also a kind of pressure on I'm not good enough because I don't do anything.
Thank you, Hank.
Yeah, and there's many women, many mother in Holland work only 2-3 days a week. And there is a pressure now that they work more, at least 4 days is much better because they're lazy mothers, lazy women, and they don't contribute as much as they can do to economic life, to society. And I think they contribute to motherhood, to child, to a new, that's also society and much more precious. Yeah. But I can feel, my daughter has 2 children, she's working 4 days a week, and I always think, how do we manage that? And on their work, she also feels the pressure. Maybe you can work in the evening. Maybe you can make it in the weekend. Can you finish this? Can you finish that? She's able to say no, but the pressure is there.
In Europe, there is also new, no, not laws, but the law is with people that they are not to be disturbed outside office times by their bosses with email, and the great car factories have adopted to that rule, but not every boss is doing it by that rule. So there is pressure and there is counter pressure.
What about in Latin America, Ophelia?
Things are changing and going towards this direction, but I will speak for Argentina. Argentina always followed the European pathway or modalities, and we were much more relaxed in that sense, productive, but I think balanced, much more balanced. I was shocked to see the system here. Not that people work everywhere, people produces everywhere. It's just the mentality that you are not doing enough, or if you are not doing, then you are not being part of this system. So in Latin America is much more relaxed, but there you deal with uncertainty, which you used not to deal with uncertainty here in this the more developed countries. So you are working, but there is a lot of uncertainty, the government, where things are going, the stability. So you have other pressures to go by, but it used to be more relaxed, yeah.
It strikes me that what we're talking about with this drive to work, with this perhaps virtuous striving, that in order to let that go, it requires a certain faith that it's not up to me.
Mm.
Even that it's not up to us. What if climate change, that it's not just the humans that are going to collaborate to reverse the effects of climate change, and our anthropocentric view of the world, that it is up to me, it is up to us. And yet I see many other life forms out there that are not just bent on survival, but they are directed towards life. What if it's not up to us? And I don't know the answer to that. I am just posing the question. And if that question can help regulate our nervous systems enough that we can be responsive rather than reactive, maybe that is a pathway to reviving the global heart. So let's do our practice, and then we'll have some time. We don't always say this, but you're welcome to stand during reviving the global heart or the core exercise. Do just find a comfortable posture where your back is relatively straight, but not rigid. Often I'll roll my shoulders back and try to relax my spine while keeping it straight. I invite you to find your center down in the middle of your body, about a third of the way in, beneath your belly button, or wherever you connect to a center. And just to help us hammer home that maybe it's not up to you, I'm going to refer to it today as our centers. So finding our centers, now connecting to those points in which we make contact with a pillow or a cushion, piece of wood, something else connected to the earth. From our centers, becoming aware of our anchor points. And remembering the earth is not separate from us. We are part of life on earth. We are part of this living system. So as we connect from our centers, we're connecting to life. From our centers, becoming aware of our physical being. From our centers, connecting to those bodily processes that are always working, not just in humans, but in all creatures that are directed towards life. The flow of the blood, the movement of cells and within cells. From our centers, now becoming aware of our emotions. Not needing to name them or judge them or categorize them, just being aware that we have this feeling part of being alive that serves many purposes. By becoming aware of our emotions, we're in a sense embracing them as part of life. Now from our centers, becoming aware of our thoughts. Not necessarily what are you thinking or what is on your mind, but the texture, the velocity. Connecting to that part of yourself that does sense making. allowing it to be there, not judging it. Now, with more of an awareness of your physical, emotional, and mental self, from our centers, becoming aware of that space in the middle of our chest, perhaps just outside of it, our heart centers. We can become aware from our centers that we can feel from our hearts, and together that creates power. From our centers and from our hearts, becoming aware something larger than yourself. Not forgetting that that's not separate from you either. That too is part of life, that you are part of something larger than yourself. Now, the greater awareness of your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual connection to life, take a breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. From our centers and from our hearts, becoming aware of our surroundings. In all directions, ahead of you, behind you, to your sides, beneath you, and above you. Not feeling constrained by physical objects or walls. Becoming aware of that space that exists all around you that is more than just things. Now, from our centers and from our hearts, becoming aware of the other people, the centers and the hearts in this Reviving the Global Heart practice. The dozen or so of us who are gathered here to power up our centers and our hearts together. Allowing yourself to be impacted by the other's presence. And perhaps even more difficult, allowing the possibility that your presence here is impacting them too, even without words. Now, with a greater awareness of your self, your surroundings, and those in this dojo, going to extend that awareness to more human beings, beginning with strangers. From our center and from our hearts, with honor and respect, with care and compassion for all of life, connecting to those other human beings who are a part of life too, but you've never encountered or you don't know names. From your center and from your heart to those billions of beings who also have centers and hearts. Now, from your center and from your heart, connecting to all those known humans, the hundreds, perhaps thousands of people who you have encountered, or perhaps you've developed care for. The people you love, the people you see often, the people you don't see often enough, the people who tug at your heart. From your center and from your heart, becoming aware of them. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those you might consider adversaries, those who prompt reactions in you. Perhaps it's a name, perhaps it's a word, perhaps it's a phrase, perhaps it's an image, perhaps it's a memory. Becoming aware from your centers and from our hearts. Connecting to those who perhaps it's more difficult to connect to, but opening up to the idea that it's possible. And one more step out into the universe today, from our centers and from our hearts, connecting with all of life, including the humans, the known, the loved ones, the strangers, the unknown, the adversaries, and the mammals, the pets, the lizards, the snakes, the amphibians, the fish, the birds, the insects, the trees, the grasses, the hedges, the flowers, the fungi, the algae, all part of life, from our centers and from our hearts, connecting with these beings, but also the force that exists beneath these beings, which you're a part of. Now, with greater awareness of yourself, your surroundings, other humans, and all of life, let's take a breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. If your eyes are closed, just keeping them closed. Giving yourself a minute to feel the pulse of life that goes through your veins, that extends to the others who gathered today. Out onto the sidewalks, in nature, in the wilderness, in the oceans, and in the sky. This pulse of life. Perhaps it's not up to you. To make the planet a safer place, a more sustainable place. But perhaps you also have the power to respond. So one last breath to close this practice in through your mouth, in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Your eyes are closed, slowly opening your eyes. Look around the room or out the windows. Stretch, shake if it feels right. And coming back into the space. Now we have time for responses.
Hey there, Todd.
Yes, Golden.
I tried to say this before we started the meditation, but I was on mute. I find it challenging, the sentence, it is not up to you, because humans tend to swing the pendulum hard in one direction or another. So if I were to carry the message, it's not up to you, I could see people going, well, okay, well, it's not up to me. So, you know, I don't have anything to do with it. And I think there has been a lot of that in the world. So what I heard in meditation, as you were saying that phrase, was there's just one word that's missing. It's not up to you alone.
Mm.
And I think, especially in the
Mhm.
United States, where we have the cultural myth of the lone hero who goes in and saves the day, that one man who made a difference. There's a lot of that in the US, but there's not much, I think, support for the trope of it's not up to us alone, which would imply it's up to us together.
Mhm. Oh, Golden, thank you. It's beautiful.
Todd, can I sort of,
Jean, yeah, go ahead.
first of all, thank you for hosting today. It's been lovely. I want to sort of toggle on or tag on to what Golden just said. I had a challenge in hearing you suggest that it's not up to us. And I agree with what Golden said. It's a lovely idea. And the image that I get emotional about this because it's not the somewhere between algae and humankind sit the monarch butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard last week that it's been placed on the endangered list, amidst, without getting into personal things, a lot of personal sadness that I'm feeling, that broke my heart. That was the straw that broke my heart last week, because I grew up in the Northeast and I know, and I'm not a scientist in any way, but I know what these monarch butterflies do every year, and I love it. They fly thousands of miles to winter in Mexico and California from places like the Jersey Shore. And when you think about that, it's miraculous. And when I heard the status, that's up to all of us. And it's not just a butterfly, it's a symbol of all that we're facing in terms of sustaining and respecting. So for me alone, my promise to myself, I can't stop development. It's all around us in our neighborhood and everywhere, is to go out, and I'm going to buy milkweed like crazy because they fly through our neighborhood and that's their food source.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll stop there, but that was what sat in my heart.
Thank you, Jean. I noticed, Jean, yesterday, we're adjoining to a property that's owned by the city and leased to hold the wells for the area. So we have a little bit of roughly managed wildness right behind us, just west of us. And they usually let it grow, and it's fun to walk back there and see what's growing. But earlier this spring, they basically clear cut all the prairie grass and wildflowers. And it was sad. I struggled with that. But yesterday on my walk back there, what is growing all over the place, in addition to a number of oak trees and cottonwood, is there's milkweed popping up everywhere. And I thought that makes me feel so much better that we can cut down and life still goes for it.
Well, one of the ways it does that too is us humans. So this happened as well, Todd, in the Skyline Forest area of Monterey, where folks came through and just mowed down all the grass and all the things that the deer eat. So they started eating our plants. And they stripped every leaf off of my ivy trees, every leaf. And I have this prayer that I say when I eat: may all may all beings on this planet have ready access to the sustenance they need to be whole and well. I didn't know that I was going to be providing the ready access, but there you go.
Thank you, Golden.
So So yeah, it's up to us, and it's up to all of us together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else with a response?
And yet, I agree with everything that's been said, and yet I think there's also a need to let go at some point and do what we can, and then, trust that others will help and push the process forward, and that we're not alone.
I hear the word surrender sometimes, and I kind of I have my own reaction to that word, but I understand the wisdom behind it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to so-called surrender doesn't mean that you're passive or inactive.
No.
To me, it kind of implies that I cannot control, but I can respond.
You're putting down your power, not for temporarily, rather than surrendering it or being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it's putting it down. It's just acknowledging that it's not up to us alone. I really love the way Golden put that.
Yeah, Golden, that's going to stick with me. Because it also reminds us that we are not alone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have time for one more. Thank you, George. Thank you, Cynthia. Anyone else? Okay, let's close this practice with a dedication. It's great to see you all. Thank you for gathering, joining together the synergy. May all beings thrive, be in their connection to life. May humans be responsive and responsible in our place in that. May we all go and remember that it's not up to us alone. Thank you, everyone. Joe will be back next week. He sends his love.
Thank you,
Thank you, Todd.